Check. Good morning, good morning. Huh? I don't. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Good morning. Welcome to the jug. I hope we're good. Where'd you get that hat?
They gave it to me because I was wearing it on air yesterday.
You get one?
The only person I thought maybe would be talk about yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
He's going to be here. He's in the second one.
Okay. Yeah, I need to change. After this, I need to change. Oh, yeah, but he's from the Delaware. He's never won the jug before.
He's never won the jug.
The last time him and I caught up with the jug, we were riding around on the golf cart. Okay. Yeah, we'll do maybe like an after and go yesterday.
Yeah. They won 5 yesterday. You know.
That one open is so breezy. It is. Icy. It's cold. Nobody's coming.
Well, it's on YouTube. It's going to be transferred over to Facebook, yeah. Whoever's the tallest, maybe let's try to use parts with two in the middle. She's always in the middle. Okay. Always in the middle. Oh, she's going to be a little low. That's a command order. Is that command from you, Wendy?
Yeah, I guess so. I'm okay. They can just boss me around fine.
They know what that's like. Test. I don't know. I came back here because I had to get this set up. All right. What? Rich, how you doing? All right? Good to see you, man.
No problem. You're going to be in the middle.
No, they're going to put Wendy in the middle, so. Today we do everything.
Hey, Dave. Kyle. Kyle.
Nice to see you, sir. Pleasure. I'll shake your hand. Good? Oh, that's harness racing for you. Well, welcome.
What's up with you, Kyle?
I kind of watched one of these on YouTube, so
Okay.
I'm just gonna.
You like to just chit chat.
I got a few questions to get you guys going, and then just some to laugh. Get some laughing, maybe things I hope.
Well, you can make a joke because about like I have 6 outfit changes in my car. I just don't know which one I'm gonna make yet because of this. I had to like leave and get here to be like, what am I? Usually I'm dressed, but there was that when I.
Cutting in and out on that camera.
What's that? Again? Why is this thing flashing? Should have nothing now, right? Hopefully that'll work. Is it back?
Just relieve the stress.
As soon as we're ready to go, we'll go. Just do it again?
Yeah.
Well, I'm just gonna have to look at what we got here. Let's see what we got. Now it's gone.
Yeah.
Just happened. Just lost the camera. Oh, front. See that thing buried. It'll work, sir. I always have extras. I do, but I didn't run out for it. So that's our company line, 20,000. Hey, Susan, did you get parked over around the corner? All right, we're gonna try this. If it happens, just play around till they comes back, and we'll go from there. Test. All right. Yeah, Kyle's gonna do it for us. We're gonna see what we get. All right, you guys ready? Yep, we're using it. Are you three ready for our, give it a shot? You guys ready? All right. We're gonna hit the opener here in a minute. Go.
Trying to get that cable out from behind her head.
Test 1, 2. We're okay. All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Trackside Live, our speaker series. I'm Frank Frost, the Outreach and Public Relations Coordinator for the Ohio Harness Horsemen Association. Today we're joined by this trio, Roger Houston, Wendy Ross. Your mic's not on yet, Dave, and Dave Brower. So as wet as it is, hopefully everything's going to work fine. We are also live streaming this on our YouTube channel as well as harnessracingohio.com. and our Facebook page. So I want to welcome everybody this morning. And how are you guys doing this morning? Long day yesterday.
Can I talk now?
You can talk now.
Good morning, everybody. Hey, listen, it's a little bit chilly, a little bit breezy here, and overcast so far. So we're looking at somewhat better, racing weather conditions for today. But you can just see everybody walking around with the hoodies and pullovers and the extra special jackets, something that we're just not used to here in Delaware, Ohio at this time of year. But hey, listen, it is what it is. Frank, before we even get into all kinds of stuff, I just want to throw the monster shout out to everybody that worked on the racing surface yesterday.
Definitely.
Steve, the track man here, Scotty Freeman, Greg Boone, Wayne, I think is one of the other guys' names. What a masterful job. And you heard it in Tim Teetrick's post-race interview with Roger after the Jughead. He said they had this as good as it can possibly be. And that's not easy to do under the conditions that we suffered through yesterday. It was just miserable.
Well, the amount of rain that fell the night before, a lot of people were even talking, are we going to even be able to race? And the crew just did a fantastic job that whole, all day yesterday. They were out there. And then even before everybody left the fairgrounds yesterday, they were out there working, getting ready for today. It was amazing how quickly they were back out there and working. So.
Yeah, yesterday was one of those days that they wish they were paid by the hour.
Or by how many times they went, or by the mile, how many times they went around the track, too.
That's true, many, yeah.
Roger, how you doing this morning?
Is it morning?
It's morning.
It was a short night, I know that. I get up this morning, got the car packing with everything, head home after the races. Who do I meet in the aisle of coming down the Brower? I'd been up an hour and a half, and he's just getting out of it.
I needed some coffee. I was on my way for coffee.
Wendy, how are you doing this morning?
She got up at 3 a.m. to get ready.
She's got 6 changes of clothes in her car, though. That's what we've heard.
Well, that's the thing. Usually I'm ready and looking just as dapper as these two. But today, I brought a bunch of clothes. I left my house down there in Columbus, and I said, I don't even know what to take. I packed one day. It looked like I was packing for a week. And even today, I said, I'm going to leave. I'm going to get there. And, so I'm still in this hat from yesterday, my hunter boots on and leggings. But we're going to figure out what we're going to need. And, I think the theme for today is we're shivering, but we're smiling.
Yeah, we were pretty cold on the set there at the end of the day. Even though we were undercover, and listen, I'm not complaining about that because there were a lot of people on the fringe of the box seat area. A lot of people yesterday too, despite those conditions. But they were getting the mist when the wind would change directions, and let's hope the wind dies down a little and we can get through our show.
Really, it was cold, Susan. We didn't have any cold, and we had no wind where we were. It was nice. We were toasty in our little announcer's booth over there, studio.
Hey, listen, thanks. I got to go over and spend a couple of races with Barry. You got a nice setup there. I really appreciate the work that you guys have done, and I know I said that on the air. It's been fun to watch. I'm home doing, basically nothing, or, I'm on the couch. Instead of watching the Yankees replay, I'll turn you guys on because you're likely at a fair showing racing and stuff like that.
We appreciate that.
Here's the thing about that booth, okay? We've been there a long time, right?
Yes.
Been in there, and you guys, it's nice when it's cool, but if it was 90,
we had fans in there. We
really?
were prepared.
Saw
We
the
were ready,
fans.
so we were ready for that. Folks, you can come and sit down. You don't have to stand over there. We got rid of the swamp in the tent, so you can make your way over. Well, let's talk some handicapping and try to make some people some money. So remember, this is for entertainment purposes only, though, right? Nah, not really. So
There's gambling here, Frank.
yeah, exactly.
This is what we do.
That's the fun part about being on the air and doing what I do. I don't get to the window, so my pocket stays just as it should be when I walk in as when I leave, so which is good. All right, how have you three done on your picks so far this week leading up to Jug Day?
We leave the analysis and countdown and recap to one person only. So I'm gonna turn the microphone right over to the guy a couple seats to my right here. He'll give you the update.
I hate to handicap, first of all.
We know that.
And by the time we get to Wednesday and Thursday, I'm usually on top, but I fade fast. I had Brower, I think, by what? Three.
You had me. Your top level was 3. After the first 2 days, it was only 2. So I knew I was in good shape.
It has changed drastically. I think he's on top. I have to look at the book, but I think he's now on top by 2 or 3, something like that. And I told him this morning when I saw him that handicapping last night at 11 o'clock was a little too much, and I might be pretty good the first 6 or 7 races, but after that it's downhill.
But Roger, you're weak. People need to understand. Like, it starts out, and then it just gets hectic, more crazy.
Yeah.
More things you're involved in, like day to day. So the days get longer. So you get a little bit of a pass, right?
I've already called one race today on WCOL radio. They have what's called the Little Wooden Jug for Woody in the morning. So we did one race already this morning. So that kind of woke me up.
There you go.
But,
So,
you know, I'll probably have 6 or 7 winners today, but Brower will probably have about 10 or 11.
Frank, ask me how
Now,
many
wait a
I've
minute,
had.
wait a minute. I
Wendy,
gotta
how
say
have you
this.
done this?
Here's the thing.
Wendy probably, for the races that she's handicapped, because she missed a lot of races
day and a half
handicapped.
I missed, so
But
I
the
wasn't
races she's
allowed to
handicapped,
participate.
she probably is ahead of Dave and I both.
Solid.
Then she's leading.
No.
You know.
But I wasn't here Sunday because I was at the Red Mile, and then I only did 6 races on Monday, so I didn't, mine don't count. But yes, I think I've been on a heck of a run. If
I
we're
think
keeping
you
count.
only count when you have 3 horses in the race, you only count what the 3 horses do. So we're going to give Wendy the lead then. Tough luck, guys. That's all there is to it.
Thank you,
So.
Frank. I like your style.
All right, now, what do you guys look for? Today we got the jug. When you first open the program, what's the first thing you look for, Dave?
Driver changes and choices. You know, that we always, when we get here, you know, horses have been racing on the fair circuits. Not every top driver like Dan Noble and Aaron Merriman can make the fairs and circuits and stuff like that. It's a big difference. And then towards Wednesday and Thursday, when the Grand Circuit guys show up, you know, the Yonics, the Tim Tetrichs, the Dexter Dunns, the Scott Cirons too, they can move a horse up significantly. And no disrespect to the drivers, you know, elsewhere here in the state of Ohio, but every year you see it. So, you know, it's a fact. So occasionally too, the drivers will have to make a choice. You know, they'll stay loyal to certain barns, and we understand that. But perfect example yesterday were the 3 winners trained by Annette Lorenzen. I think she entered 3 horses. They all won. Tetrick drove all of them, or at least 2 of them that I know of as well. So, you know, driver changes, ship-ins, certain trainers love to come here. They love to compete. They love to race. They just want to be part of the experience too, because it's always so much fun and usually a little bit warmer. But, you know, listen, it doesn't say that on the purse check, you know, when you get that 50% of, you know, 10,000 or 15,000 or whatever it is. So that's the first thing I look for, and then post position, obviously, too.
Wendy?
For me, I think when you're coming in here looking at these horses that have been racing at the fairs and things, I'd say consistency. The ones that got a lot of ones in that win column kind of know coming in here. That's what they do. They love to win. And when you're dealing with those the Buckeye Stallion Series and things like that, I think when you get to the good races like the Standardbreds and of course the jug at the eliminations and things like that, I think the horses that I think post position is a big thing, and then how sharp the horses are coming into today, and you know, and what horse I think will handle the conditions of the heats and things best.
Roger?
Don't take me wrong when I say this, but track handicappers at the parimutuel tracks have a distinct advantage at their track because they see the same horses day in and day out. Delaware is probably the hardest to handicap, even though you have a lot of favorites. There's a lot of question marks, and you got them coming from Kenton, you got them coming from Upper Sandusky, you got them coming from the Meadows, you got some coming from the Meadowlands, you got them coming from everywhere, and that makes it very difficult. I look at drivers. Right away, I look at a field of 10, I throw out 5 horses because of the driver. No, as he said, no disrespect, but that's it. Some guys are just better than others. And picking up a horse. I also look at the last quarter, and as Wendy said, consistency as well. But it's so many things, and it changes with every race.
I agree with Roger as far as you got to be there to watch the race, and I know Dave is, especially at the Meadowlands. You know, he watches. If you're there live and you watch the race, you know those little things that if you don't pick up if you don't watch the race and you just pick up a program like, hey, I'm going to bet the Meadowlands tonight, or you know any other track, and if you haven't seen it live, that makes it hard because you don't know those little things, to where if you do watch the races every week in and week out, it does give you that advantage because you saw the race. You know if they got locked in, beat 2, or was it how fast they paced home, or did they finish strong? It doesn't show that really in the line sometimes.
A lot of times I like to rate a performance or a particular race as he was good. You've heard that around the racetrack. Or he wasn't that good tonight. The horse may finish second, but he wasn't that good. And you know that if you watch the race live. Same thing with qualifiers, too. They're so important to the game. You know when a horse finishes up strong like this under a nice tight hold, and you know when one's all out. So, you know, when the one that was all out shows up in the entry box, you tend to discredit that performance. They might even be one of the favorites, so, you know, it's a vulnerable kind of thing. So, watching races is very, very important. And if you fall in love with one race, too, you know, take a look at a couple of the replays of the other horses so that it'll confirm your opinion. Everybody has access to replays nowadays and things like that. It's so much more information available out there as well. So do a little homework. You don't have to do it for every race and spend hours and hours and hours, but you might find that one spot, you know, how did this horse race at Scioto last week? I want to watch it. Now, good example, we had Oakwood Annabella. If you didn't watch her races, and not everybody watches Scioto live every night, you should have pulled up that replay because that's how impressive she was. And she turned in a great performance yesterday, especially in the elimination. She was awesome. She was digging in right to the wire. And, you know, she ended up third over in the flow behind the eventual winner. But she did pace home strongly, and she's going to have a nice career here in North America, wherever they decide to take her.
If anybody has any questions, raise your hand. Let's get back here. We've got one. Okay, hold on, Brett. Let's see. There we go. Fire away.
So, anybody in the group, how important do you put like class drops and class hikes into your equation in betting?
You know, that's a wild thing because you look at these horses, most of them changed class from racetracks. One thing I look here at least, if you had horses racing the Ohio Sire Stakes or the Buckeye Stallion Series, and you have other horses that have just been racing at the fairs. Well, you have a horse racing here, he's more than likely is down in class. If you have him racing from the fairs, they're up in class. So that's a big factor.
Yeah, it's important too. We'll stick with Ohio here in particular. There's, I guess, 3 different levels is about the best way to say that of horse. There's the fair circuit. There's the Buckeye Stallion Series, which I plant right in the middle, and it's been such a great addition to the entire racing program here. Then there's the Sire Stakes, which is the top level. So as Roger pointed out, when a horse is dropping from a Buckeye Stallion Series or a Sire Stakes race to a fair race, that's a huge class drop. And it goes the other way. So when one of the fair horses shows up here, or it manages to make the Sire Stakes final, you know, stuff like that, it's going to be a tough task. So you got to grade those levels. And like Roger said, when you have shippers from Indiana and shippers from New Jersey, you kind of have to figure out what kind of level they were racing at, and is this the proper fit for them?
Dave, I think when we look at the jug eliminations just going into today, when you're looking at these colts coming in the company that they've been racing against, you have to pay attention to what colts have been racing in that premier Grand Circuit company. Some of the colts coming in out of that North America Cup and the Hempt and the Cane and the Adios, or some of them coming out of this, you know, non-winners of 5 condition at Chester or somewhere like that. So always pay attention to that as well, as far as what kind of company they've been keeping coming into this group again today.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. The 2 eliminations fell out differently, kind of like yesterday in the Jugette. You know, in that first elim 16th race, I think Luz Pearlman very, very much the one to beat. The Burke Brigade, you know, number 1, they're on a roll right now, obviously. They've won a couple of jugs in the past, but they've figured this horse out. He was a very, very good 2-year-old, but they had 3 good 2-year-olds last year. They had Luz Pearlman, they had Southwind Gentry, and they had Summa Cum Laude. At the beginning of the season, I thought Luz Pearlman had advanced and grown up and become a little bit better than the other 2. And then he ran into a couple problems. Now he's on Lasix. That might have been the big difference maker here that finally turned him in the right direction, because he's been super sharp over his last few starts. And very quietly, I know the Burke Brigade think they have a great chance to beat Perfect Sting if they both make it to the final and draw Ideal Post. So he's going to be hard to beat in that first elim.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think Luz Pearlman can win the whole thing.
You can.
It's from post 2 in his elimination, you know, Yannick, you kind of know the name of the game there and what he's going to do if he can get to the front and, you know, get in that elimination and not get him roughed up too much, and then, you know, then draw good in the final, and, you know, like we saw yesterday, that's just what all you need to do really, is just have a little bit of luck in the draw in the first go of it, and then hopefully, you know, get to where you need to be there in the final, and that's kind of usually how it works out. And we certainly know Burks know how to win that Little Brown Jug title,
They
so
do.
we could see that today. So Luz Pearlman actually is my pick for the whole shebang. Roger.
Totally agree. I've been a Luz Pearlman fan probably a couple weeks now, and regardless of who came to the race, Perfect Sting is here for one reason. Joe Holloway said it. Nobody is ahead of the 3-year-old class. So that's why he's here. He needs a win bad because they want to be the 3-year-old pacer of the year. And Perfect Sting's got to win. But there's just too many seconds and things like that for Perfect Sting. And so I'm going to go with Luz Pearlman all the way.
Perfect Sting, though, with you know, the Buckeye there behind him, post 6. It might take a little bit more than post 6 to stop him, that's for sure. So let's not leave out Perfect Sting, and he certainly has a big shot as well. It's just I think it's how he gets through that elimination, and then if he makes a final and draws well, I mean, it'll change things for sure.
Yeah, in my opinion, that 17th race, the second elimination, that's the stacked field, and there's a couple that can win there. And you know, Perfect Sting has such an incredible reputation, being undefeated last year or two, and he's lost a couple, but he digs in and fights a lot. I know you see 2s, you see 2nds, but he's entering the jug today off his finest performance of the season in the North America Cup, so he's getting sharp right now.
Where did he finish in the North American Cup?
I think
He
he was
was second.
second.
Thank you.
Fighting all the way.
Where did Lou Pearlman finish in his last race?
He's come in. He's
Oh,
in search of
yeah.
4 in a row.
In the Meadowlands pace?
He wasn't in.
He wasn't in the Meadowlands pace.
He
yeah.
was in the
So,
hemp,
yeah.
and then he won.
No, he just wasn't. No, they didn't have him figured out at that time. You know, he had a couple of issues towards the middle of his season. When the 3 big Burke 3-year-olds came back and qualified, I think they all qualified on the same day or qualified within a week of each other. Luz Pearlman clearly, to me, was the best looking of the 3 at that moment. Remember, horses grow up, some of them mature, they transition. It's not easy to be good at 2 and then come back and be strong at 3. We've seen a lot of them fall by the wayside. So when I saw that first qualifier from Luz Pearlman, I said, wow, I said, this horse is much, much better. And then he ran into some problems, a little bit of sickness, you know, again, the Lasix, this and that, but nobody does better than the Burke Brigade when it comes to figuring out what's wrong and fixing the problem and going forward. That's why they're here today, and that's why they're confident, and they should be.
You know what, Dave, though? It will take the sharpest Luz Pearlman that we've seen to beat a sharp Perfect Sting today.
It will, and you know, let's hope we get to that point because you know, those are the star performers. And, you know, in the eliminations, we certainly want to see them hook up again in the final. And you know, we saw a great Jugette yesterday. You know, both eliminations of the Jugette and the final were won from off the pace. And how often do we say that here in Delaware, Ohio? This track right now, with what they've had to do to it to get it into tip-top shape, is not your usual Delaware surface. The material they've been adding is a stone dust mix. You have a name for it?
I
Yeah.
think that Greg called it like diamond chips
Yeah,
or something,
well,
but he didn't really give me a specific name.
It
no.
doesn't have that Delaware color, but that's what they needed to do to make it raceable yesterday. So don't take the old Delaware adage of, you know, speed goes right to the front and wins. We had many off the pace winners. We had horses coming uncovered, taking air and sustaining those moves. So let's see how the drivers recognize that too. So they will adapt as necessary.
We could be seeing a jug time from like 2000 comparable to a 2000 if that's like it'd be
not-
like 53.
Yeah, I don't think any world records are in jeopardy
No.
today.
No, go ahead, Roger. And then we're going to take a break.
I want to talk about a horse that nobody's mentioned. Rocky Road Hanover. He beat Perfect Sting in the Adios, and I don't like to criticize judges' call, but I thought it was the wrong call in the Adios, that Rocky Road Hanover did not interfere at the top of the stretch. Driver made one little miscue or something behind him, and they blamed it Rocky Road Hanover. But Dexter Dunn, when I first met him in Ireland, he hadn't even thought about coming to the United States to drive. He is the real thing when it comes to drivers, and I think he's shown that in the last few years. And right now, I mean, a lot of others, well, he's getting a lot of credit now, but I still think he's underrated by a lot of people. I'm a big Dexter Dunn favorite, and if there's going to be an upset, it'll be Rocky Road Hanover.
I don't know, Roger. I put a thing on Twitter on Sunday when I was at Lexington. I said, is there anyone cooler than Dexter Dunn? And it got a lot of views, and I don't think at this point there is.
I couldn't. What did you
So
say?
when I was in the Red Mile on Sunday, Dexter, I was down there covering it for work, and he was coming out of the winter circle, just kind of like sitting chilly, halfway in the seat and halfway out, and I just took a video of him. It was like 6 seconds long, and I said, is there anyone cooler than Dexter Dunn? And honestly, it's probably on its way up to 4,000 views right now on Twitter. So I'm going to say everyone agrees now. At this point, he is the coolest thing.
Well, I'm not talking coolest. He might be the coolest guy
He
on the
is
planet,
cool.
but I think he's the best driver right now.
Whoa, oh, for sure. And I don't think anyone's going to argue with you there.
Well, you know what? It's been a pleasure to watch these guys come over here and develop. And we've had them in different stages. We had Andrew McCarthy come first, made an immediate impact and drove for the top stables and was in all the big races. Very, very down-to-earth guy, fun guy. And of course, he's had success here at Delaware. Then Dexter showed up, and he made an even bigger immediate impact, racing for the top stables, picking up all the good drives, putting horses in the right spot and position to win. And then I think after a few phone conversations between the McCarthy brothers, Todd said, you know what, maybe I better get over there to the U.S. and see what I can do. And he's picked up steam like you can't believe. And he's the one that's actually been taking advantage at the Meadowlands when all of the other drivers have been on the road for the major stakes. So when the sheet would come out, Todd McCarthy would be listed on 3-4 horses. He'd make his choice, and he was right more often than not. So it was a little bit of a good handicapping angle, but he'll get his day in a lot of these major stakes races too.
Well, that's the thing. Now we're seeing Todd on the road as well, because he's jumped in there and but making a statement as well on the Grand Circuit level.
Well, let's take a quick break so we can pay a couple of bills, and then we'll come back with Roger, Wendy, and Dave after this.
Hearing the wind, I'm like, it might be worse over there.
Well, that's what because I'm thinking Tim keeps blowing. I'm like, man, that thing.
Yes, sir.
I'm glad to see the car made it.
It did. Thank you.
And,
So far, so good.
Yeah. It's off. They didn't bring like,
Okay.
No, you know what? We have a couple in a box right in front of us that have been so nice to us over the last few years. They constantly refill this big, bag of chips and little candy bars and this and that. They even brought us a box of cinnamon rolls yesterday, which were outstanding. He ate the whole one that I gave him before we went on the air. So we're okay. Yeah. I'm trying to stay away from the extreme sweets.
Hey, Roger, I think we need to get Dave to come to Ohio and go to one of the fairs with you guys this next summer and
All right, stand by.
handicap.
Problem is, I'm always working. Thanks for coming over. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, welcome back to the Trackside Live Speakers series. We have Roger Houston, Wendy Ross, Dave Brow. If anybody has a question, just raise your hand. I'll come over and you can ask. We don't have many people here with us today, a little too early and a little too cold. What do you think the weather's going to do to the crowd today, guys?
That's a Roger question. Roger?
I got to be honest, I wear hearing aids, and that tractor out there was louder than you, Frank.
Yeah, I can't hear you. What do you think the weather's going to do to the crowd today?
It will be down, and I'll be pleasantly surprised if we have 25,000 people. Pleasantly surprised. Normally on a jug day, people are walking by here carrying coolers and things like that. You would have, I made the statement in the log cabin, by 8 a.m. on a normal jug day with the weather and such, there'd be 5,000, 6,000 people already here at 8 a.m. I doubt that there's 2,500 here right now.
I'm going to agree with that. I will say, though, I was pleasantly surprised by the number of people that came out yesterday. I mean, everybody knew it was going to be a torrential downpour all day. The upper half of the grandstand was really filled. And a lot of people were in that underneath overhang, downstairs to, protect themselves from the weather and stuff like that. There were lines at the mutual machines that had tellers. And again, with the COVID protocols, we don't have as many live tellers as we probably would. Lots of self-service machines, but there were a lot of people here yesterday. And if they were here yesterday, well, they're coming back today.
Yeah. There's no question about that. You're talking about live tellers and such. We have the same problem here this year that every business in North America has as well. We could not get the number of tellers that we've had in years past. So you will see more bet machines, and it's something that's going in the United States in every walk of life. Even we had trouble getting tellers.
Yeah, every job. You know, Tom was telling us that story, I think, when, when I got here at the early part of the week. He says, boy, I wish I could find more people to work. But as the week has gone on, there has been a little bit more. I see people walking around selling some programs now, and all of the concession stands are up and running, all the memorabilia, the T-shirts, the hats. The entire last turn, pretty much every spot is taken, by campers, and of course behind the log cabin, everybody's able to bring their, camper this year, and we didn't have a whole lot of that last year, so it's a sight to see, and it's definitely a good thing, and hopefully by next year we're at full capacity and we get a little 70-degree day.
Plus, the other factor is you still have the border closed, so a lot of our Canadian friends are unable to get down here for this.
It's a huge event for the Canadians, and I've had people tell me, I wish I could come, but they just won't let me out yet, and things like that. So it's unfortunate, but they'll all be tuned in. I can tell you that they're not going to miss at least whether they're watching you on the OHHA site or on Little Brown Jug Radio, or if they have an RTN account, they can watch us.
I will say this, my phone was so busy yesterday, I usually respond to everything I get, even if I'm working, within 5-10 minutes. Yesterday, there were a lot of them I couldn't even respond to. Our viewership yesterday, not talking about here, was probably double or triple what it normally was, because all of Ireland, Scotland, Wales, Great Britain were watching this. There were two horses, one owned by a gentleman in England, the other horse owned by a couple in Ireland. I'm not getting one bit. I had over 250 text messages from people over there, praising those horses.
I'll give you one more guy that's watching today. He's tuned in from Israel. His name is Michael Granoff. He's the son of Marty Granoff, and he has a particular interest in this year's Little Brown Jug because his family owns a piece of perfect sting. So that's where he is right now, and I don't know what time it is. I didn't ask him when he messaged me
It's
this
6
morning.
hours ahead over
6
there.
hours ahead? All right, well, he'll be awake. Don't worry.
Well, yesterday on our broadcast, we had somebody check in from the Canary Islands.
That's awesome.
I mean, it's worldwide interest, and that's what makes this great, is you have people from all over the world checking in to watch these things.
A lot of people badmouth Facebook. Oh, I'm not going to get on Facebook or something like that, But it has changed when it comes to harness racing. Oh, I got to get a Halls.
He needs a cough drop.
We'll pick that up from
You
there.
keep Halls in business,
He needs a
don't
cough
you?
drop. I need a blanket. Dave, what do you need
Well,
right now?
no, I can't even say what I need right now, so I'll leave that out. I need a cocktail, but it's a Bloody Mary.
Hey, Ray.
But that's not going to happen today. We're actually working. So, but listen.
The chicken man's
and
here.
Yes, excellent. We
Hi,
talk
Ray.
a lot about, and we say it on the air constantly. Feel free to send, reach out to us on Twitter. We're on our phones while we're talking live on the set, so you can send me an email. I'll check my emails. Send us a tweet. Send us a Facebook. I try to respond to as many as I can. Remember, we are working and we talk all day, so there's 14 different things going on, but we try, Frank.
Now, you say Twitter. It was very funny. At the beginning of the week, we were setting up our stuff, and the simulcast people came over, and they asked me, does Roger have a Twitter handle? I almost fell off the chair. Wendy, you got to figure out a way. We've tried. We've tried at the OHHA. It hasn't worked, and you're the queen of Twitter, so.
Well, I don't know about the queen, but I've helped Roger on Twitter in the past, so Roger, you might have to
My
get
head,
a name.
I got my normal haircut, which is almost shaved, really. I'm not going to go the Barry Vickroy look, but my head's getting cold today, so I had to borrow Ray's hat here, known as the Chicken Man, and this thing's heavy.
That's the problem with
does
hats
look
like
heavy.
that. You start adding pins and pins, and it just gets to the point it gets too heavy.
Seriously,
There you go.
somebody take a picture and text it to me.
Ray is always, it's always good to see Ray, and that beautiful hat that he wears every year, and it's always a pleasure to see him. And just
guys like him and folks and fans that just come out to it every year and just
It's
nice
part
to
of
see
our
everyone.
tradition. We
It
look
is.
forward to seeing these people. But Frank, you bring up Twitter, and I want to give somebody a little bit of credit because somebody has worked their tail off all year, sitting directly to my right. And if you don't follow the United States Trotting Association on Twitter, please do. Tons of information, starting with like 7 a.m. yesterday when she was on a video chat with her, standing next to Trackman Greg Kuhn. This was the first thing I had heard in the morning. I don't know, I'm waiting for my phone to ring and say we're canceled, stay in the hotel. Well, her information by talking to Greg Kuhn said he was confident that we were going to be able to race. It was a good, minute and a half interview. I said, well, time to get in the shower. I guess I got to go to work. She also had remotes in the Little Brown Jug Barn with several of the contenders, chit-chat. So it's loaded with inside information. You can get this. It's free. You just have to get on and follow. She's good at it.
Well, Dave, thank you. I appreciate it. But it's a team effort, and we've just been trying to, we got 5 platforms. We always have the U.S. Trotting on Facebook and Twitter, and then we have Harness Racing Fan Zone on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. So there's 5 platforms you can follow us. We kind of put different things on everything, and I've been busy kind of with this duties this week. So Kyle Credit, he just joined our team. He's a new guy on the team, so he's been doing some really good stuff for us on Instagram and Twitter. And of course, we got Rich Johnson, Mark Hall.
I know.
It's a group effort. I'm the always out there, but everybody does special things, and one couldn't be without the other. That's for
Yeah.
sure. And we've just been trying to have a big run here in 2021.
Rich is always a big expert. We don't have to worry about him. But that Kyle guy, he's learning that mixing board over there. It's a little complicated.
Yeah, we threw him in. We're trying to get this up on our YouTube and Facebook, and I was gonna have to then. Rich says, Kyle can do it, so I gave him a quick lesson, so he's there.
But you know what, Frank? You guys have a heck of a team at the OHHA too, so you know what it's about, right? We're not a one-man band. It's a team effort,
No.
and you guys do a great job and deserve to be acknowledged as well for everything you guys have done.
Perfect example, our newest addition to the OHHA, Ashley Daly. She's now running a camera. She
was-
had no idea she was running camera this morning when she walked in
That's
here.
the first thing I said when I saw her behind the light. I said, oh, you're multi-talented too. Front of the camera, back of the camera. Good job.
Here, let me be clear too, just to add to this, I do a lot of in front of the camera things, but that's where it's a team effort, because there's a lot of the guys do a lot of things behind the camera, put the videos together and stuff like that. So I don't do much technical stuff. It's all in front and, ideas and creative. So yeah, it's, but thank you, Dave. We really appreciate it.
But then you throw Roger Houston, and I got Roger doing more stuff than Roger ever thought he'd be doing.
That's why he's tired.
I want to mention that. I came to the OHHA in November of 2019, I think
Yep.
it was. Ashley came to the OHHA just a few months ago. And one day I heard Ashley say, this wasn't in my job description. Well, guess what? COVID, if there's one thing that's good about COVID, and I'm not being, it's been a serious problem, but if there's one thing good, it was the OHHA broadcasting the county fair races. 65 programs last year, 125 this year. Everybody, Susan Schroeder, Frank, Tom Pye, you name them down the road, Ashley, myself, everybody, it wasn't in our job description, but it all changed with COVID. But it changed for a good point. We have introduced harness racing to so many people, because if you're switching by Facebook and you see a horse race, I guarantee you will stop and watch that race to its conclusion or something like that.
Yeah.
Now, it's our job that once we get them to tune in, to get them to come back, make their way to the racetrack. Horse ownership. I can name 7, 8, 10 people that have got into the horse ownership because of OHHA's Facebook coverage of the county fairs.
It's been great to have new owners. We're going to wrap this up in a couple minutes. We have Dan and Christy Noble coming in next. They've got an entry. Roger's got a handicapping tip for everybody, and I'm going to ask, I'm going to tell Roger's one, but I want to see what Dave's got, if Wendy's got one tip. Roger's is always bet the women in the amateur races. So that's Roger's one tip to make people money. Dave, one tip to make people money today.
See who is hot early. If you jumped on the Tim Tetrick bandwagon early, you saw he was really ready to go, then how many winners did you have? You had 5 winners. So, look who's going to start the day hot. Everybody races in most of the races today, so you'll be able to identify that quickly. And of course, we do have 20 races, so there are plenty of opportunities. So see who gets hot early.
Wendy?
I have two. I have a bet that I always like to give out to everyone that's new to betting. Or I said always bet the exact or trifecta box. That's always a good bet for people, for sure, for the price. And also look for the horse that's sharp coming into the race.
Roger, besides bet the women, what other one?
Alicia Binkley from the rail today. But anyway, and I agree with Wendy, the number one bet should be an exacta box.
All right, anybody else have any questions? Because I got one more question to ask them. I want to thank everybody here. All right, Roger, we'll start with you. Who's your pick? When it's all said and done today, around 6:30, 7 o'clock, or whenever we get there, who's your pick to win the jug?
Lose Perlman.
Wendy?
Two things I want to say. I am going with Luz Perlman to win the whole thing, but certainly my heart's with Town Gossip and Water Sports Teen. It's my best friend and Team JB Racing going into today. But I'm going to say Luz Perlman is my pick.
Dave?
I'll take Perfect Sting. He's not a mortal lock cinch, but I have faith in Mr. Dave Miller and Joe Holloway, 2 Hall of Fame guys. Joe Holloway would not bring that horse here unless he was ready.
All right, one more quick question. Nobody today mentioned Born to be Shameless. And coming in, I'm going to have Dan and Christie, the Ohio Sire Stakes Championship. Any shot?
Yes, I wanted to because we had a great time promoting Smooth as Tennessee whiskey yesterday. The little guy Brian Haynes, the $3,000 yearling price. Now Dan and Christie, they've been around for a long, long time. They drew the rail, and they went in the stall that had been occupied by the horse's sire, Big Bad John, years ago. Now I don't know whether they knew that, picked that on purpose.
No, that was the
Total
whole thing.
coincidence.
Chrissy could have picked any stall.
Good question for them a little bit later on when they
Chrissy
come.
could
I
have
saw
picked-
your piece yesterday.
Yep, she could have picked any stall, and then she went in there, and then she looked up, she was like, whoa. So it was kind of, a little nostalgic to be in that.
It's a tall order, but when you
Little
have the rail and Danny, that helps.
Little story there, Born to be Shameless, Ohio Sire Stake final up there. Before, right after the draw, the State Racing Commission overruled the judges and everybody else and made Dan Noble drive Born to be Shameless, even though he owned a bigger percentage of Heart of Chewbacca. And I'm not sure what rule the Racing Commission used, but they said that they were going to hit. And Danny was very upset that he couldn't drive Heart of Chewbacca. So he gets the call to drive Born to be Shameless, a horse that I'd never even heard of. I'm interviewing the owner in the winner's circle, and he just threw into the race, and we got Born to Shameless, and he's getting better with every start. Danny wins the race, was Born to be Shameless. I walk up to him in the winner's circle when they're taking the pictures and everything. He says, "You like that new rule by the Racing Commission, don't you?" He says, "Yeah, today."
Well, I want to thank the three of you guys for getting up very early and coming out and kicking things off. Unfortunately, yesterday, the weather, we didn't get the chance to do the speaker series yesterday, so I want to thank the three of you guys. Stay warm today, dress warm, and for those of you on YouTube, and those of you here, stick around because in about 15 minutes, we'll have Danny Christie Noble coming in. Want to thank you guys again. We want to thank the USTA. We want to thank Hagemeyer Farms as our sponsor. And we'll be back in about 15 minutes with our second speaker series today. Thank you, everybody.
I did. All right. He's very unhappy about it, I'm telling you.
Don't throw, if you throw him a winger, he gets all nervous.
Ohio Harness Horsemen's Association presents Trackside Live. Trackside Live is presented by Hagemeyer Farms. Harness Horsemen's Association presents Trackside Live. Trackside Live is presented by Hagemeyer Farms. Now let's go trackside to the Delaware County Fairgrounds.
To the Trackside Live Speaker Series presented by Hagemeyer Farms. I'm Frank Frost, the Outreach and Public Relations Coordinator for the Ohio Harness Horsemen's Association. And this morning we are joined by Christy and Dan Noble. I want to thank the two of you for coming out, getting here this morning. I heard it was a little tough challenge this morning with the little guy.
Yes, he was not cooperating very well. He was not cooperating very well this morning, but we made it.
Well, after yesterday, when you had him in his stroller, bundled up, I think it was a trash bag covering all but his face. It was the greatest picture, and I hope you put it up somewhere where people can see it.
It was a poncho, not a trash bag.
Okay, well, it looked like a trash bag, but their son was he was bundled up, just sitting there looking, going like, what am I doing here, Mom, please? So, but first question for you, Christy, what does Jug Week mean to you?
Honestly, I think it means more to me just to be with Dan and part of his family, because it's been part of their life for every year. It's about my 10th year here at the Jug. I actually had never been to a Jug until I came with Dan 10 years ago. And it's just so special, the atmosphere and just how everybody from Ohio and all the Ohio breds are just it's just an unreal experience to be here.
Dan, it's been part of your life forever. Talk about, what you like about the Jug and what it means to you.
The Jug has always been a big deal. Ever since I was a kid, I've never missed a year, and it's really just amazing just to watch all the Grand Circuit races here, and it's a thrill just to be here in Ohio and to be able to be right here at the Jug.
Now, just so everybody knows, if you have any questions, raise your hand. We'll get over to you. We'll have you ask questions for Dan and Christy. We're also live streaming this also as well. Dan, as a driver, yesterday and today, what goes through your mind when you wake up and it's raining, it's cold, it's windy?
When I seen it raining earlier this morning, I said, "Oh, not another miserable day here." And it's no fun when it's chilly out. You'd really like it to be temperatures over 60. To watch these type of horses race here.
How about you, Christy? It's a little different for you. You're not sitting out there behind them. What goes through your mind?
Correct. It's still very miserable. It's wet everywhere. It's cold. Just a complete climate change in the last 48 hours. I'm actually more worried about the horse, or all my horses actually, with this drastic drop in temperature.
That was my next question. What does that do to the horses, and what can you do to make them more comfortable?
I don't know if there's really much you can do. Mother Nature takes care of them. Throw a light sheet on them and pray.
All right. Dan, this is a big week for you. You came into the week a couple of wins behind your father. You guys, did you know you were that close to tying your dad for fourth most wins here at Delaware?
No, I really didn't know I was that close, honestly, Frank. And it's quite a privilege, to go above his winning here and be tied.
When you found out, any pressure?
No pressure. I just know it's just another race, and we move on to the next one, and hopefully I can just keep going up. Do you feel pressure when you're out there before a race, whether it's an overnight or a stakes race of some sort, like the Ohio Sire Stakes? Honestly, no. I used to. I always used to feel like I had a lot of pressure, and now it's just every race it's just a race. It don't matter if you're going for 5,000 or 300. You have a little bit of different tactics, when you're going for more money, but there's no pressure.
Christy, do you feel the pressure at all? Different races?
Sometimes in the bigger races, I feel a little more pressure because there's that, want to do well for the owner and the horse, and it's just the overnight's not so much anymore because it is what it is.
Dan, what do you do before a race? Before a race card starts and before each race to get yourself, mentally prepared and get in the right frame of mind?
Hey, normal days, I usually get about 2 hours just to myself. I'll sleep an hour and wake up and give myself an hour before I have to be there. It seems to put me in a good relaxing stage, and unfortunately here at Jug I really can't do that, but
how does that throw off? And that's a great leading question. How does that throw off your daily routine, not only for you as a driver, Christy, you as a trainer, and for caring for the horses, because you've got horses still back at the fairgrounds?
I do. It's thrown it off quite a bit this week, but I think that I had everything kind of mapped and planned out, that hopefully their schedules didn't change too much. The weather's been the biggest player.
Dan?
It's really been the weather, really. It puts a little bit of a wrench in everything, but we've got a good team, so I'm not really worried about it.
Well, you got a good team, and you've got a good horse that's going to be in the Little Brown Jug today. First off, what's it mean to have a horse like Born to Be Shameless in the jug? I'll let either one of you answer the question, because the next one I got another one coming up too. So
It really means a lot. It's really special, especially to have a Big Bad John Ohio bred be able to perform on this stage. He is a good horse, so it's going to be interesting today to see how he fares out against these Grand Circuit colts.
Dan?
It's quite a privilege. It actually gives me goosebumps. I never thought we'd actually purchase a horse or have one that would be eligible or even maybe go with the Grand Circuit here at the Jug. So it means a lot.
Now, a month ago, 2 months ago, Born to Be Shameless was not in the Noble Barn at all. All of a sudden, Dan brings you a horse, Chrissy. I'm going to let you guys decide who's going to answer this as to how you got the horse, and then, Chrissy, then you answer what you thought of the horse. Dan, you go first. How did you guys get Born to Be Shameless?
I got to drive him one start there for Steck, and the horse really showed me a lot of speed and talent there. He come a big back half that day, and I'd asked him when we got off the track if the horse was for sale, and within 72 hours we had him bought. And Christy here really was not happy about it at first.
All right, Christy, you're up now. Why were you not happy about Dan purchasing a jug horse?
Well, he mentioned the horse actually that night when he got home, and I looked him up and I was like, man, that's a lot of money to put up for a non-winners of two who's made $8,200. I don't know if we really should be interested in it and get our partners interested in it. And that was kind of end of story. And 2 days later, he walks in the barn with a shipper, and who's this? So I had no idea that him and the partners went ahead and bought the horse, and I was not very happy at the time.
How often does Dan do those type of things?
Not very often, so he must have really liked this horse or have seen something the one time that he drove him.
Dan, what did you like so much about Born to Be Shameless?
He showed a lot of back speed, for our back half. He threw in 2 big quarters that night, and my thoughts were if I could just get our hands on this horse and try to make a few changes, I thought he could accomplish what he's accomplished, like with the Sire Stake final win. And actually after that, we really didn't know we were eligible for the Jug. And when I found out we were, I said we better give him a good chance.
Yeah, you didn't have to supplement it, and he was eligible for the Jug, so that must have been a pleasant surprise for you. And then after winning at the Sire Stakes, when was the decision made that we're racing in the Jug?
It was that night at 1 a.m. on the ride home.
Was it a mutual decision or a one-person decision?
It was mutual, as long as he had come out of the final okay, and he's not staked to anything else besides the breeders here or the Jug, so hey, we got a horse that's eligible for the Jug, let's go.
Well, good for you guys. If anybody has any questions, please raise your hand, and we'll come over to you. And if you got a question, we got a prize for you if you have a question for either Dan or Christy. Here we go.
As an owner, okay, of a horse, and you're the trainer and stuff, who decides who drives the horse? Do you have that say, or the owner?
Dan has to drive most of all my horses, regardless, because obviously we're married. Now there is a case where he owns a horse that Ron Burke has, so in that case he has to drive that horse and somebody else will drive my horse.
And then we had a situation with the Ohio Sire Stakes finals where usually you drive Heart of Chewbacca, but you had to drive Born to Be Shameless that day. Talk a little bit about what happened with that whole situation.
Well, I wasn't really happy the fact that I couldn't drive the Heart of Chewbacca horse because I do own 50% of him. But in the end result, I do own a piece of the Born to Be Shameless, and being that we're married, I do have a whole lot more hands-on with those two, so it would throw a wrench in things if I drove the other horse. So I believe that things were done right there.
How hard is it to win a big race like the Ohio Sire Stakes?
It's very tough because you never know, especially at the time of the year. Your weather's up and down. That's usually the time of year a lot of the horses get sick. So you go out there, you think you're 110, and they might only be 90%. And it makes it tough to really map out how you're going to drive because you're not 100% sure you think you know that they're 100% healthy.
We're going to take a quick break, and then when we come back, we're going to have more questions for Dan and Christy right after this on the Trackside Live Speaker Series. For 4 generations, Hagemeyer Farms has been caring and breeding standard-bred racehorses. Hagemeyer Farms is home to a roster of champion stallions, including Western Terror, sire to $11 million earners, and Fool Me Once, a millionaire son of Art Major, standing his first season in 2021. Hagemeyer Farms is looking for its next champion. Stand your stallion at Hagemeyer Farms. For information about standing your stallion, call 513-304-9263.
Hello everyone, I'm Wendy Ross for USTrotting.com. In 2018, the USTA Board of Directors voted and declared that microchips were the safest and most effective way to identify our racehorses. We started with foals of 2019 and allowed ample catch-up time for all racehorses to be chipped by the January 1st, 2022 deadline. Any racehorses not chipped by January 1st will not be eligible to race in the new year. We have 12 ID technicians ready to schedule your appointment today. Don't miss the gate. Visit the link below or contact your member services representative.
Welcome back to Trackside Live in our speaker series presented by Hagemeyer Farms. Christy, when you got to the Delaware County Fairgrounds with Born to Be Shameless, you get to the Jug Barn. You got to choose a stall.
Yes.
You did not know the history behind the stall you chose when you chose that, did you?
I did not realize it until the next day, actually. It was dark. We got here at like midnight. I unloaded him, and we just picked a corner stall where it was kind of quiet, and there wasn't much action around him. And the next day, I walk in, and I'm taking care of him, and I just happen to look up, and Big Bad John's little brown jug is hanging above his stall.
What went through your mind when you realized he was in his father's stall?
Yes, it was just the irony of it. It was kind of like a sign. Hopefully, it was a good luck sign.
Is that the mojo you kind of need in races like this?
Definitely. Definitely give me and Dan a little pick-me-up and a little mojo.
Dan, what do you like about driving this horse? What's the best part about it?
Best part about it, like in the final, I raced him from behind, but this horse I think is very versatile. It all depends, how the track plays out, but I believe he can do it any way I'd like to drive.
Yesterday, what did you think of the track? We had a lot of rain, and they worked real hard on it. What was the track doing when you were out there?
The track was still pretty tough. It was much better than the day before, but through the day, it got very heavy, and there was times, it was hard to judge how much speed you wanted to use early, because it seemed like if you used speed early, you were just done. The horses were extremely tired and couldn't really finish.
When you're out there, do you use the first couple of races in the day to kind of prepare yourself of what the track's doing, or was the track changing that much?
Yes, the track fluctuated. Usually I use the first 3 or 4, and it normally gets better, or it can get worse. And like yesterday, as the card went on, it was just getting tiring, very deep, and then you have to change all your tactics, and it's tough because every other driver is doing the same thing.
Conditions-wise, rain, cold, weather, how did that affect you out there?
It affected me a lot because hard vision to see, and the horses feel good, and you think you're making the right move, and within 100 feet, it's the wrong move.
Christy, do you do anything different for the horses to prepare them for a day like we had yesterday, or is it the same as if it was an 85-degree day in sunshine?
Yeah, pretty much for the most part, other than maybe like a light shipping sheet, or when they got there, they were actually on an outside shed row, the two I raced yesterday. So it was really chilly. They had the breeze blowing on them all day and raining in the stalls. So, I mean, there's not really much you can do.
How did they come out of it? Okay.
They seem okay, yeah.
Okay. Anybody got any questions? Here we go. We've got one.
I watched you race 2 weeks ago on a Saturday at Saturday Downs. You had a 9-hole in that big race with 130,000, 135,000. Did you think you had a shot with that bunch?
I honestly thought I did if I could work out a non-speed trip. The last time, we'd been in that race, I do have a front-end speed horse, and it unfortunately, the start before, I got stung pretty hard, and it took a lot of starch out of him. In my mind that night, I thought if I could get him to relax, and there was early speed, I knew I'd have back-end speed to possibly get there.
Got another question here for you guys.
Christy, do you train him hard in between races, or like 1 trip, 2 trips, or do you just
If he
take it
races
easy?
every week, we kind of seem to back off a little bit on the training, be a little more lighter on him. If he's got 2 or 3 weeks off in between, we definitely usually hook him to the bike and train him up pretty hard, 2 or 3 trips.
Is your dad here today?
I think he's coming. I will.
Also, how about heat racing? 2 heats. Do you train, knowing you were going to be in the jug, did you change your training style or training routine for Born to be Shameless, knowing that possibility he's going to have to go 2 heats?
I think we train enough increments and training trips and intervals and quarters that he's going to be legged up and aired up and ready to go for 2 heats if need be, if he makes a final.
What do you think about heat racing?
I think
Dan?
it's a great thing, actually, because a lot of horses seem to be better the second trip. They get loosened up and aired up, and as long as you don't take too much sting out of them the first heat, that they're even better the second heat.
With that, Dan, is there strategy just to get to the finals, or is there the strategy that I want to win this so I can get that the 1 or the 2 hole?
Yeah, I think you have to think of that strategy I don't think you want to use the horse completely all the way up in the first heat, but I believe it depends on the conditioning too. Is this horse going to be good coming back a second heat? A lot of horses love a second heat, I believe, and if they're trained properly, they seem to really, it doesn't matter how hard I think you are, because they have enough time to recover and rebound and go back to second heat, which they've been trained to do.
All right, another question here.
Dan, I've known your family for years, but how Colton is racing in this Signature Series final. How big a smile will you have if he comes home first tonight?
Oh, I would really have a big smile on my face today. Just because I had got that opportunity when I was younger, and I'm hoping that he has the same opportunity I'm trying to give to him that my father gave to me. And of course, I had Dr. Elbon, who was a lot faster-footed than this horse I've got for him, but he's just as safe.
What did it mean? Ubuntu was the horse you drove for your 6,000th win, and it was Colton's first win, so that was kind of special.
That was pretty special, and honestly, I was trying to sell this horse. My wife had talked me out of that because we couldn't find a horse for Colton to drive and learn on, at the fair circuit.
When we did Freshman Focus with you guys earlier in the year, we asked about family and being in it and Colton driving, and you were kind of thinking he was going a different direction, but Colton seems to think this is the direction he wants to go the last time we talked to him. What are your feelings on your son following in your footsteps?
It's a privilege, it gives me goosebumps just for the fact that, I followed in my grandfather, father, and great-grandfather's footsteps. And I just hope, I don't mind him following in my footsteps. I just would like him to have something else there to back up just for in the future. You never know.
Now, you told the story that Nash, he's the heir apparent to the throne. I mean, he was a natural the first day you put him on a jog cart, wasn't he?
Yes, he was, and I can already tell he's only 1, but he loves the horses, and I don't think I'm going to be able to keep him away.
You guys got another pretty special horse in your barn, Heart of Chewbacca. That horse, and Charlie May have had one of the greatest rivalries we've seen in a while. Talk about that rivalry and what and the excitement that it has built. Christy?
I think it's built a lot of excitement because those two colts were literally leagues better than the other 3-year-olds this year, so it gave a lot of excitement during a lot of their races, just for the fans and the betting public and everybody actually to watch them race against each other.
What did one of you two do to the draw gods for Heart of Chewbacca? Because the poor horse has gotten terrible draws, and again today, all the way on the outside.
It's really unfortunate that he's drawn so poorly the last, actually 60 days really. His last 4 or 5 big races he's drawn awful, and it's just a shame really because he's a great colt and he's just had awful luck on his side the last half of the year.
When you see where you're drawn, Dan, do you then kind of look back at the 3, 4, 5 previous races and what you did there and change a strategy or adjust something?
You know, with Chewbacca, it's very tough. Every time he gets a 7 or 8 hole, you know, we've kind of tried a different strategy, tried to duck, we've tried to come, you know, leave. Just the outside is really, it's played a pretty big toll on this horse, but he seems to bounce out of it every time. He has the same mentality every time I get behind him. So I'm hoping today the 8 hole don't play that big of a role.
When you look at Heart of Chewbacca and the battle that you guys have had with Charlie May, do you see it continuing in 4, 5 years? How long are you going to keep him going?
You know, I'm hoping he still goes till he's about 4 or 5. You know, I believe the horse will tell me, or he'll let us know when he would like to be done.
Now, right now, the wind's really picking up out there. How tough is it, and what role, you know, with the wind, what do you have to do with the wind, and how much does it affect you when you're out there driving?
You know, it all depends if is it in your face or is it in behind you. You know, hopefully in the head of the lane you're not going into a headwind. You know, you can get a little push in the lane. It does take a big toll out of the horses, and even as a driver, you know, you take a lot of just as much punishment as the horse does.
Christy, when 2021 started off this year, and now you look where you are in September, has the year gone how you wanted it to go for the stable?
Yes, we've had a really good year. I mean, it was kind of hard to beat 2020 with the year that Ocean had and Chewbacca, but with having Slingshot and now Shameless and the year Ocean Rocks had again, we can't complain. We've had a fantastic year, and we've had great horses, and we're blessed to have good owners and a good team to get us through the year.
Anybody got any other questions? Somebody's got to have a question for Dan and Christy. Nobody? Well, we got one over. Okay, here we go. All right.
Yeah, I was on your jug horse today. What's all that stuff up on his face and them squiggly ties and everything?
Squiggly ties up on his face.
Well, you know, I had to come up with something. The horse was seeing shadows and spots in the track that weren't there. And, everything that we had tried was not working. And we made a little homemade, shadow roll, basically, with some zip ties there, and it worked.
When you do get a horse like Born to be Shameless into the barn, seeing what it had done in the past, what goes into the process of getting him ready to be a horse that you want him to be? Is there a lot of testing? Is there a lot of trial and error?
There was definitely some trial and error, especially like the first 3-4 weeks that we had the horse, and in his routine, because anytime you get a horse, and obviously we had to throw him right in some big races, it's a lot, you know, to try to situate how the horse, you know, likes to be taken care of, and just, you know, how he likes to be trained and how he likes his diet. So there is a lot of hours and thought process involved in that.
Does he have any quirks?
He does have a little bit of quirk sometimes. He's a little bully sometimes, but if you don't let him do what he wants to do, he gets a little angry.
All right. Any other questions? What do you think of your chances today?
I hope that the racing gods above already have that lined up for us.
Dan?
Yes.
I feel the same way. You know, I hope everybody has a good trip, and, you know, we're all safe out there, and we just have fun and I'm just hoping that we have luck on our side today.
It's been a privilege to get where we are, so hopefully we have a little more luck and we drew well that we can make the second heat.
When you get out there for the first time, Dan, what are the emotions going to be like driving in the Jug, a race that your father never had the opportunity to win?
You know, there's going to be some emotions there, you know, wishing that he was here to see. But, you know, I'll probably think about all that at the end of the day when everything's all said and done, because I don't want that to affect me when I'm out there.
All right, you've got, we've got what, about 2.5 hours to first post time today. What is the day for Dan Noble now for the next 2.5 hours, and then until you get that first drive, what will you do?
Right now, I'm just going to go back to my camper and try to sneak in a little nap.
Christy, is that all he does is nap?
He likes to just take that little rest time before, but he'll probably have to play with Nash.
That's more fun than napping, though, isn't it, Dan?
Most generally, that's what happens anyhow. So
he just needs his little downtime, his alone time to set his frame of mind right.
Dan, as a driver, any superstitions?
I do get superstitious. You know, I don't like interviews before big races. I'm very superstitious about that.
Now you tell us that. Oh, what other ones?
And I've never had no luck doing it. If I've stayed away, I've usually had some pretty good luck.
Well, thanks. All right, so if things don't go well...
Yeah, this isn't an interview.
Okay, there you go. So, yeah, so you don't blame me, okay?
It's all your fault, Frank.
I get blamed enough for the weather wherever I go. I don't need to get blamed for that, too. So, do you take a look at the other horses in the race? Do you scout them? Do you analyze what they've done and try to figure out what their strategies might be that the drivers will employ?
Honestly, I don't, because it seems like every race you think you've got the strategies of every horse figured out in the drivers, and 90% of the time it doesn't plan out that way, because all of us are doing the same thing, and it seems to be mixed up every time. You know, it all depends on when the wings fold, what our decision is.
Nervous at all at the start of a race?
No. I used to be when I was in my 20s, but anymore, no nervousness.
Nervous when Colton drives?
I was a little at the first 3 starts, and I got over it pretty quick.
Now, when he gets done driving, are you Dan Noble dad when he gets off the bike, or are you Dan Noble driver who gets off when he gets off the bike?
Nah, I've been pretty good about just being dad. I have not nitpicked him on his driving. I've left that alone because he's got to learn too. And honestly, I have not really seen a mistake yet in his very few handful of drives. So,
has he come to you for advice when he first got in that bike for that first race or after that?
Yes, he still asks, and we still have a little work there to do, you know, on some pointers.
Christy, do you get nervous at these big races?
I probably will be, my nerves will be up a little today. I honestly wasn't nervous on finals night because I honestly didn't think that the horse could reach from where he was at, and it was really a thrill. So I'm hoping that if I don't get my hopes up and there's really no pressure, it's just a pleasant surprise.
Now you know, we know Dan's from a harness racing family. You're also from a harness racing family.
I am.
Tell
I'm
us a little bit about your
also a
background.
fifth-generation horseman. My father did it, and my grandfather and my great-grandfather, they all did it. The Snyders were down in Pompano. So I was born into it as well. Right around from Buffalo, I am New York, so I lived
Another
there.
fine young lady there.
I lived there until I moved up here with Dan 10 years ago now.
Did they try to encourage you to get out of the business?
I did get out of the business. I always did this on the side. I went to college for 6 years. I worked what people call a normal job for 2 years, and then I went back to doing this full time. So I've always done it, but I never thought that I would do it for profession. Actually, I thought I would just do it on the side and for fun. So, but you can't get away from it.
Any questions? Anybody else have any? We got one back here. Hold on a second. There we go.
I'm newer to the sport, so my questions may sound really novice to you, but I'm curious, what is the weekly routine of a driver?
I didn't hear.
What is your weekly routine as a driver? What's your weekly routine?
My weekly routine, I get up in the morning, I play with Nash. Of course, then I go to the barn with Christy. You know, I'm there at least 4 to 5 hours, and then I'll go home and play with Nash again, and about 3 hours later, I'm back off to the track. It seems like it's an everyday routine. Nothing changes.
And a nap here and there.
Of course, I'm getting that in.
Hey, Dan, what goes into a decision when you're named on 2 horses for a night? Let's say it's Scioto, you're named on 2. What goes into your decision to choose which one you're going to drive?
Of course, if they're pretty well equal, you know, I try to go by the trainer, the owners, for just loyalty. You know, they've been there. It depends, you know, a lot of them have been there my whole life. So, you know, I try to take the ones that have been really loyal to me, and that I just go off that decision. And a lot of times it's the wrong decision. When I know I should take the other horse, I do it out of a lot of loyalty to the owner and the trainer.
How important is loyalty in this business?
It's really, really important, you know, but on the other side, you know, sometimes we can't do it. And unfortunately, we pay for it for a few weeks, and it overturns and comes back to us. It's a tough decision to do.
Christy, following up on the gentleman's question there, being a novice in this, if someone was interested in getting into this business as an owner, being a trainer, what advice would you give them?
I would recommend either getting a racehorse, an older horse, or buying a small share or percentage of a baby. Sometimes babies aren't the best way to go when you're new into the business because they're all what-ifs. And a racehorse is kind of proven, it's racing, it's making a little money to bring in to offset the bills, would be what I would say.
Now, you've got older horses, you've got the babies. What about the claiming game?
We are down on our claiming horses. We're trying to get away from the claimers a little more. I'm trying to keep my numbers down between 25 and no more than 30. So between the 2 and 3-year-olds that we have and the Ocean Rocks or the Verocities, I'm gonna try to stay away from the claimers. I like the claimers, but I'm just trying to keep my numbers down. So
where do you find your babies, your 2 and 3? Are they all from the sales?
Probably at least 50% of them are from the sales, and then a few of our owners have homebreds. They have little small breeding operations, so that's where the other 50% comes from.
What do you look for when you go to a sale, and how much input? Is it a joint decision, or do you both look at the book separately and then kind of come together and say, hey, I saw this or I saw that horse? And
yeah, we both kind of look at it separately and then kind of come together and decide, and then, you know, watch the videos, and we'll go look at them and either check them off or, hey, we like this one, we're going to throw a couple bids on them. And then, of course, sometimes our owners have inputs on some, so we'll just, you know, go look at them and make a joint decision for everybody.
Do you ever get an owner just call you and say, I want this horse, go get this one for me?
Yeah, sometimes you just have to buy it.
And even if you look at it and go, I'm not so sure about this?
Sometimes I can't talk them out of it. Other times I can. But a few times I've tried to and I couldn't, and it was a good decision on their part. So you never know.
Have you had it the other way where you wanted to say, told you so?
Yes, but I didn't.
We've got a question down here. Let's head over here. Here we go.
Suppose I want to become an owner and I say, let's go to the sale. And aside from the cost of the colt or filly, what do I need to figure my expenses would be, staking and sustaining payments and all that stuff for a year on a, let's say a nice Ohio sire stake colt or filly?
Wow, he's going right for the sire stakes.
Yeah.
I was just looking to get in the business.
Normally, when you're staking to just Ohio, you're just going to stake to just Ohio, it's probably right around $2,500 to stake to everything in Ohio at this moment. And your bills, you got to figure roughly are going to be roughly around $2,000 a month or so. So you figure that in.
Any other questions? I saw another hand up over here somewhere. At least I thought I did. All right. Well, Christy and Dan, thank you very much for stopping over today. We're going to let you guys get back to the business at hand. I know Dan looks like he's ready to fall asleep sitting over there. The funny thing is Dan looks that way every time I see him. If we're down at the barn, Dan looks like he's ready. He'll go into a stall if he could and just curl up and grab a quick nap. Aren't you that way, aren't you?
Absolutely, Frank. I don't get much sleep as it is.
And there's another question I want to ask you, Dan. you drive at Scioto, you get done. Sometimes that last race doesn't go off till late, and then you got to wind down and you got to get home. How tough is that on you physically and mentally?
It's tough, you know. It usually, even though I have an hour drive home, it takes another hour after I get home just to wind down. So I catch myself sitting there watching TV and have to tell myself to go to bed. It's tough. It plays a big toll on you.
How tough is it on you knowing he's up there? I mean, and now with Nash, you probably used to go with him to the track all
I
the time.
did.
And
I
now,
used to go to the track every night. Now I probably go, maybe once a week, maybe, a couple times a month. It just depends actually on who's racing or what races we have. Because I'm at the barn 8-9 hours a day. And then when I go home, I'm mom. So that's my time with Nash. So it's tough because I know, I've taken care of the barn and the baby, and I know he's racing in tires. So it's a lot of pressure sometimes. I have a lot on my plate sometimes.
who's the business brains behind the operation? Is it you?
Normally. Yes.
And that was just
it's not that I don't take his input or, that it's a joint, it's definitely a joint effort. But I mostly make all the decisions.
And the one question you guys get a lot, and we didn't ask it here, the name of your stable. Where'd that come from?
It's both of our middle names. He's Daniel Norman and I'm Christy Ray. So we said we got to put our horses in a stable name a couple years ago, and we're like, what do we make it? So we just kind of threw it together. It's kind of worked.
Because people always ask,
yes, a lot of
what's
people.
it mean? And I
Who's
know
that?
I haven't been around.
Who's that from
Exactly.
Xenia? I get asked all the time.
Yeah.
Like that.
So, all right. Well, want to thank Christy and Dan Noble. Want to thank everybody for stopping over here. Our next guest coming over in about 15 minutes, scheduled to be here, is going to be Ron Burke, who won the Jugette yesterday and has a chance today at the Jug. But we want to thank Dan and Christy for coming over and joining us. So we'll have everybody back after this. This has been Trackside Live, the speaker series presented by Hagemeyer Farms, and we'll be back at 10 o'clock. Thanks, everybody. For 4 generations, Hagemeyer Farms has been caring and breeding standardbred racehorses. Hagemeyer Farms is home to a roster of champion stallions, including Western Terror, sire to $11 million earners, and Fool Me Once, a millionaire son of Art Major, standing his first season in 2021. Hagemeyer Farms is looking for its next champion. Stand your stallion at Hagemeyer Farms. For information about standing your stallion, call 513-304-9263.
How would you say the top 3 things that microchipping, the benefits that it has for the horse and the industry?
I think it's safe, reliable, less painful way to provide permanent, unchangeable identification for the horse.
Any racehorses not chipped by January 1st will not be eligible to race in the new year. We have 12 ID technicians ready to schedule your appointment today. Don't miss the gate. Visit the link below or contact your member services representative.
This has been Trackside Live. Trackside Live is presented by Hagemeyer Farms. Trackside Live is a presentation of the Ohio Harness Horsemen's Association.
good. It was a nice day. And even like all I had was sobers. I called that kid this morning, my son. I said, hey, down in the basement by that. I said, grab both of my puff suits there. He said, what? I said, you only got summer. Sorry, son. I'm going to bring you some winters. My brother over 70.
Good luck today, sir.
Oh, yeah, you got that right. You do, good. How you doing today? Good.
Mine's 585.
He's close. He was close.
10 years together, he doesn't know my phone number. He's got to live it up. It's okay.
I watched these guys.
Actually, I graduated that horse. I raced his mother. And Dan traded that horse. I kind of keep him around. He's like to be around.
tired of being a show horse. We gotta go.
Harness Horsemen's Association presents Trackside Live. Trackside Live is presented by Hagemeyer Farms. Now let's go trackside to the Delaware County Fairgrounds.
Good morning again, everyone, from the Delaware County Fairgrounds. This is the Trackside Live Speaker Series with the Ohio Harness Horsemen Association. I'm Frank Frost, the Outreach and Public Relations Director for the OHHA. And today we are joined by the winning trainer of yesterday's Jugette and also newly elected Hall of Fame member, Ron Burke. Ron, thanks for taking time this morning to come out and joining us.
Thank you very much. We got through yesterday, and today looks like it'll be a little bit better.
What went through your mind yesterday when you woke up?
It's funny, I really thought it was going to be worse than it was. And I still, in my mind, is like, we have to race today. There's no other way. They kicked around going to another day or, one, the horses are on schedule. I think that's a big thing. Horses need to stay in their schedule. And the second thing was, we have other things that we all are scheduled to do every other day, trucks, stalls. It would have been a logistical nightmare. And I feel for the fair board because, they took it on the chin yesterday because nobody was here. But, they did a great job. The track was incredible. The track was worse the day before, and they got it better for the second day. So that was nice.
Now, I know yesterday morning when I went over to the barn, you were there and I walked in and you were like, we're racing. You were convinced right from the moment, and that was even before any decisions were made.
Yeah, no, because that's pretty much my barn's whole thing. We race, we train, it doesn't matter. Wind, snow, rain, doesn't matter. My guys know if there's a typhoon, get boats, we're going. We don't take days off. It's with a smaller barn, you can afford to do that. With our barn, if we don't train 30 today, tomorrow we have 60 to train. So that's not going to work for us. So pretty much weather doesn't affect us. We go through and I wanted everybody to have that attitude yesterday because we had things we needed to accomplish, and you can't start making excuses about weather. We all race on the same track. We all have to do it. Let's go. So it usually works for us.
How many head do you have right now?
Actually, I'm probably down into the low 200s right now of active horses in training, which is the lowest I've been in 10 years. I've tried to make a conscious effort to cut back a little bit, more because the economics are not as good as the game as they were 2 years ago. But slowly I see it coming back. Yonkers is rocking. Ohio's great. PA, we have issues. COVID hurt us, and we're not totally back from it yet. New Jersey's doing well. Indiana's doing well. So now I'll start to get a little bit bigger again because, it's all based on economics for me. If there's money to be made, we'll race.
Now, I heard a rumor, and I don't know if this is true, that you know about every single one of your horses, that if somebody gives you a name, you know exactly. How do you keep it all straight?
Pretty much, I can tell you. If you put my horses out in the field running together, I can tell you who it is. And people say, how? Well, it's because of when that's what you're raised with, that's what you see every day. I see horses like people. Like when you see a person, you know who it is. The same with a horse. That's what I do every day. I look at the horses, I see the horses. So I know what a horse looks like, the same. They all look different. Yeah, if you look at them from afar, it's actually based on, there is a study like that, how, the stereotype is every Asian looks the same. No, it looks the same to us because we're not exposed to them as much. They say the same about us. Whoever you're raised around, you have a better job of identifying their features because you learn to identify features. So, when horses are all you've looked at for 40 years, you get pretty good at that.
Yesterday, you collected your 4th Jugette title. What's it mean to win 4?
Yeah, and it's actually 5 for the barn. My dad had the first one, and I always count everything. It's always, no matter if my dad was a trainer or if I'm the trainer, it's a team. We do it together. So, it's cool. That's getting to be, we're getting to be known to win the Jugette. We know how to get it done.
And part of the deal I've always said is we come here and we train that week before. We don't train them at home, we train them here. And I probably don't even need to. Our training center at home is an exact replica of this track. It was built to the exact specifications of this track. So when we're training at home, we train on a track that's just like this. So, but I don't know, there's something about being here and training the horses here that I feel like gives us an advantage.
What are your feelings about Jug Week as a whole?
You know what, like, you don't understand it till you participate in it, I think. Or maybe you don't understand it till you come it. I like saw it when I was young and I was like, I don't understand all these people going there. What the hell, it's a fair. Then I came the first time, my first jug was Life Sign. And I'm like, oh my God, this is the greatest place I've ever been. And since then, you know, that we've won it, like the first time we won it, I was very emotional and I'm not usually. And I thought, that's because it's the first time. I won a jug. You know, that's it. Your first time, then it's not going to be as good. No, second time I won it, it was just as good. You know, it is a great feeling. It's an accomplishment, and people will pay attention to it. It's, you know, when you win a jug or a jugette, my phone blows up from the minute they hit the wire from people congratulating, and so you know they watched it, so it matters. So that's nice. Like, you know, you want to be appreciated. I don't care who you are, and it's nice that people notice. You know, other places you can win races, it doesn't matter how much they go for or what, nobody notices because it's just not in as important to them as this place is.
Yesterday, Scarlett Hanover did the job. What makes her so special?
That's what I was telling my guys that they own with me, the Wingfields. I said, my partners wanted to stay in Canada and race, leave her with Eddie and race the last Sire Stake. And I said, no, we're going to win the Jugette. And they're like, you think you're, I'm like, she's built for this track. She is quick. She's easily rated. She can race either way. It makes a difference, you know. And so then when we drew, I was like, we got the right division. We're in the right spot. And we needed a driver. And basically what it came down to was that Timmy doesn't have a top 3-year-old filly. And after she goes back to Canada, she's coming back for the Breeders' Crown and the other races. And I wanted somebody that would stick with her. And so I asked Timmy if he was committed to anybody. And he said no. And you know, that was the final piece of the puzzle, was getting somebody that, you know, a top 5 guy, and it really helped.
You have a number of different guys that drive for you. I kind of related it to kind of like a NASCAR team. You're the owner of the NASCAR team, and you've got the different drivers. How much thought goes into who you're going to put up on a horse?
You know, usually it starts with Yannick. Yannick's my guy. You know, in Ohio, it's Chris. You know, now Ronnie a little bit too, because Ronnie drives Northfield and the Meadows for me. So I usually go loyal to the guys that are my guys, you know. So that is the first thing. Then I go to if horses need a certain type of driver. And, you know, and it's been great. I have David Miller more in the last 2 years. And David was my guy, and then I think he forgot my name, and I couldn't get him on horses, and then I had to go get other guys, you know. So, you know, now David, like, we get hooked up a little bit. When I can get those guys, I'm confident because I know they know me and I know them.
We've got a big grader going by, so wait till, that's a big truck going by us. How hard is it to win the Jugette?
You know, it's hard to win the Jugette. It's harder to win the Jug. You know, the Jugette, you don't always get all the best fillies. You get mostly the best fillies. The Jug, you mostly get the best horses in training show up, you know, unless they can't get around the track, you know. And so it's a hard thing. It's, you know, winning twice in a day, well, and I guess you don't need to anymore win twice a day, but Cattle Wash found out last year, you don't win the first heat, it's going to be harder to win the second heat because now you're chasing again. You know, you need an inside post position unless you're just tons the best. And this year, I don't think any of us are tons better than any of the other ones. So, you know, it's going to be trip, how the track plays. Hopefully the track plays, for my sake, more towards speed because I want Lou Pearlman on the front and just rolled. But, you know, if not, we're going to have to adjust our plans. Nice thing it is, it's late in the day. We'll know by then if there's a track bias.
Will you then change strategies as the day goes on through your mind based on what the track does?
For sure, like, because the way I saw winning, you know, 5 days ago with Scarlett was straight down the road. Just sprint as fast as we can and take everybody out of the race. You could not win on the front end yesterday. Good horses were getting beat by bad horses yesterday, you know, sitting. So we had to, you know, and that's what I like about Timmy. Timmy has the confidence to put himself in the spot where he's going to be first up, and he's like, don't worry, we're better off. Even when the draw came, he said, I want it the 2, I don't want the 1. I want him to be in front of us when we turn. And I'm like, yeah, but we better get some on him in the turn. He says, we'll be fine. He said, whoever has to, you know, do work early is going to have a hard time, you know, holding it together.
We'll also take questions from the audience. If anybody has a question for Ron Burke, please raise your hand, and we will do that. Ron, newly elected to the Hall of Fame, what's that mean to you?
You know, it's funny for me because it's an individual achievement for a team game, you know, so it's hard for me to understand. Like, it's not lack of confidence. I'm very good at what I do. I know what I'm doing. I'm very good. I am good. But the idea that I do this myself is ridiculous. I need everybody of my guys. Every one of them is awesome. You know, a lot of my guys, and it's been proven when they leave me, go on and are stars on their own right. You know, so that I'm proud of. That's one of the most things I'm proud of, that the guys that are leaving me now, they've learned and they understand what we're doing and they apply it and put their own little twist on it and they do good. So, you know, it means a lot to me, but it's weird because I always think of it not as I, as we, you know, so we did this.
Well, we're going to take a short break, pay a couple of the bills, and then we'll be back with more with Ron Burke right after this. You're at Trackside Live Speaker Series with the Ohio Harness Horsemen Association, presented by Hagemeyer Farms.
For 4 generations, Hagemeyer Farms has been caring and breeding standard-bred racehorses. Hagemeyer Farms is home to a roster of champion stallions, including Western Terror, sire to $11 million earners, and Fool Me Once, a millionaire son of Art Major, standing his first season in 2021. Hagemeyer Farms is looking for its next champion. Stand your stallion at Hagemeyer Farms. For information about standing your stallion, call 513-304-9263.
Hello everyone, I'm Wendy Ross for USTrotting.com. In 2018, the USTA Board of Directors voted and declared that microchips were the safest and most effective way to identify our racehorses. We started with foals of 2019 and allowed ample catch-up time for all racehorses to be chipped by the January 1st, 2022 deadline. Any racehorses not chipped by January 1st will not be eligible to race in the new year. We have 12 ID technicians ready to schedule your appointment today. Don't miss the gate. Visit the link below or contact your member services representative.
Welcome back to Trackside Live in the Speaker Series here at the Delaware County Fairgrounds. I'm Frank Frost, the Outreach and Public Relations Coordinator for the Ohio Harness Horsemen Association, joined today by the winning trainer of the Jugette and also newly elected Hall of Fame trainer Ron Burke. And Ron, let's talk a little bit about your 2 entries today. Luz Perlman, what do you like about Luz Perlman?
Last year, we thought he was our best colt at the beginning of the year, and then he kind of tailed off and then finished the year okay. This year, training down, we were in love with him. We thought this is, you know, we've got him, he's our best colt. Disaster from the first 5 starts. I don't even know what, like, just nothing went right. And we're like, man, we overrated this thing. And then one day at the Meadowlands, he went 47, and then since that, every day has been better, better, and better. And then the addition of Lasix took him over the top, and since then he's unbeaten. And right now I have all the confidence in the world in him. I think, you know, he's as good as anybody going right now. And I was a little bit worried, would he get around this track? It's funny, he's a small horse, but seems to like big tracks. We brought him here on Monday, trained him. He trained out of his harness, you know, so I just want the track to be fast and, you know, let the best horse win, and I think he'll be right there if that happens.
What was the difference that it all clicked for him earlier this year? Any idea?
Might have been the addition of Yannick. Maybe Yannick. I don't know. It was like things were not going right. Maybe we tinkered with their equipment a little bit. He had gotten where he was too aggressive. You know, I'm racing him in a jaw cord, which I never race horses in. I want them to be aggressive, but maybe he had gotten too aggressive. So probably equipment and Yannick.
All right, your other entry is Bayfield Beach. 5-hole in the second elimination for Bayfield Beach. What do you like about Bayfield Beach?
Bayfield has more talent maybe than the other horse even. He just doesn't always give it to you like the other horse. When we bought him like 2 months ago, gelded him, again, everything that could go wrong went wrong. We got parked in one race. We missed Lasix. We just blah, blah, blah. Finally, Friday, we got him in. He won. It actually, the line's better than it looks because I told Ronnie, like, I don't think he can beat. Just please don't show him off or race him too hard. I got to race back in 6 days. And Ronnie said, you know, I was grabbing in, and he said then when the horse came to him, he said he was shut down, and it's hard to get him going. So he came up here, he trained really good. It's a tough spot. 6-horse field, all 6 look to go forward. I don't think he can win being roughed up, so I may need the luck of other guys roughing each other up, and then I think we could pick horses up that are tired. So, you know, that one's going to be more, you know, Yannick's going to have to figure that out too.
Do you change the strategy going into those races once you see the post position draw, or do you kind of just let it play out on the track?
You know what, here you don't. Like, you draw inside. If the track's fast, you go as far and as fast as you can, and that's usually the best way to win. You know, when you draw outside, then you have to start figuring out, you know, what's the best way you can get into the race by the 3/4 pole. By the 3/4 pole, if you're still sitting 7th, you might as well go out the gate and just go to Brian Brown's barn and start talking to Brian, because your race is over. You know, so somewhere in the race, you have to make a move to get in contention by the 3/4 pole.
You've won the jug twice. What would it mean to win a third one, and what would it mean to double up here?
That's, to me, that would be the cool thing. I thought about that last night. We've never won the Jugette and the Jug, I don't think. I don't think any of the years overlapped. So that would be cool, you know. We've had a great week here. Like, we've done real good in the Ohio Breeders' Championships, and we won the Buckette yesterday, you know, and I thought, we've only won that once before too, so that was kind of cool. I was, you know, excited for that. So, yeah, anytime you win here, it's fun. It's like a great place to win, you know, especially last year there was no crowd. This year, hopefully we'll have a good crowd today. I know it's cold, but at least we're not going to get soaked.
Most training wins at the jug is 6. Can any trainer get to 6, you think? You're at 2.
Yeah, that's going to take a while. Somebody won 6 of these things?
Yep.
Who was
Billy
it?
Houghton.
Yeah, Jesus.
So
that's a lot. Yeah, I don't know. I'd usually say, yeah, I could do that, but I don't know. I'll have to train till I'm 80.
How much longer are you going to train?
Yeah, but you know, it's funny. I love what I do, and right now, neither of my kids do it. I could see maybe the younger one doing it, and it's like a part of me wants him to do it because, like, I love working with my kids and I love being around them. But then part of me thinks, shit, I'll be like my dad. I'll be 85. I'll still be out here training horses, you know, because it's kind of hard to just say, hey, this is a hard sport. Good luck, you know, figure it out, you know. So it's hard for me. Like, I love what I do, but I've always said I don't think the world ends in harness racing. I want to do other things. I want to see other things. And the problem is, and I believe this, if you're half out of this, you might as well be all the way out of it. This isn't something you can half-ass it and get good results. If you ain't all the way in, believe me, they'll show you're all the way out. They'll push you out.
365-day-a-year job. What does Ron Burke do to unwind? And when you get a free moment, what do you do?
I pretty much don't unwind. It's like, you know, I probably have borderline mental illness, but I just use it for my good. You know, like when you don't I always say, like, I think of why I like to have a drink or two. I think it slows my mind down to where I'm normal. But normal for me is like on key, just racing my head. And it's, I hate, I'd like to say my kids are the first thing I think about, and the last thing, nah. First thing I think about is horses, last thing, horses,
Any questions from our fans who have gathered here today with trainer Ron Burke? As you look back when this year started and you're now in the middle of September, has it gone the way you expected it to? Better, worse?
It's funny. It's like, to me, the year's been a hard year, even though we've had a good year. I don't know. We still have some leftover from COVID, and it changed some of the race dates. And, now we have overlap. All those races in Canada overlapped with our Sire Stake finals. You had to make a hard decision. Do you go to the, race in Canada, or do you race your Sire Stake finals here? So then also with staff, you had to split your staff. Usually our whole, top staff would go to Canada and race. Now we could only send half of them because the other half had to stay here and race PA, New York, and Ohio, and now Lexington the other day's finals. So, we did good in both, but I can't wait till next year. Hopefully everything goes back.
The one thing companies have been having is staffing problems. Have you had that, or have you been fortunate?
My guys stayed with me, being honest. They were good. I was proud of our guys that they stayed. We didn't lose people. Our people have been with us. They stayed with us. So it was good. We wanted them. We didn't cut pay when we weren't racing. We paid everybody full because their bills weren't cut. So we just took it. The owners all paid. We all we lost for a little bit, but thank God we were back racing. It had been a couple more months, it would have been a problem for all of us, but we made it through. For the industry, I'll give everybody credit. I thought it would be the death knell for a lot of people, and I just underestimated people's, ability to just strive and do better. And a lot of people worked a lot harder and did a lot more and, took care of their horses. And, the day they opened, we were all back going. So it was tough, but it was, I think it was a good thing to show people that, appreciate when the times are good.
What went into the decisions deciding whether to go to Canada or race here in Ohio, PA, or New York on that weekend?
Literally, me and Mark Weaver pretty much discuss every horse, and it would be like, we can win the final here with this horse, so that horse can go to Canada. We can win the final here with this horse, that horse can go to Canada. We were trying to, and that part was nice. We didn't have to race ourselves as much as we do anymore. And that's tough because, most of the time the partnerships are close, but they're not exactly the same. And, one group sometimes feels like they're getting beat by the guy that they're paying to train their horse too. So it can be tough, but people know I send every horse out with the same, wanting them to win. These guys, I had won the West for Brian, and a lot of times he beat foiled again. I owned none of won the West. I owned 33% of foiled again, and it was hard. Sometimes you're thinking the top of the lane, I'm getting 5% here, I'm getting 33% there, but I let the horses race for it and earn it. So that part it's, hard, but I always figure if you just do what's best for the horse, they'll take care of you in the end.
The breeding here in Ohio has gotten better over the last few years. You're around the whole industry. What are people saying about Ohio outside of Ohio?
Yeah, it was funny. Last year, people were like, 2 or 3 years, Ohio's going to be a factor on the Grand Circuit. I'm like, it ain't going to be 2 or 3 years. It's now. It's here, down by the seaside, What the Hill. They're here. That's the first time ever Ohio got the 2 best 3-year-olds of a crop, went to stud here. People here support the game better than anywhere. Everybody has brood mares. Everybody wants to breed. Everybody is part of the industry. It's here now, and it's just going to get more. The more we breed here, the better we do, the tougher it's going to get. it's going to be even tougher to win races. There's more people now from the East Coast going to come here and try. And it's funny, like, I race out in the East Coast, and a lot of times they think it's easy here. I'm thinking, when you get here, it ain't as easy as you think. There's good trainers here. There's great drivers here. There's, it's a tough circuit here too. But it's nice for the, slots did Ohio what it was supposed to do. It revitalized the whole industry. The breeding, the owning, the everything. It's back. So, I don't think it's down the road. It's here.
The industry over in Pennsylvania with your governor is really causing you guys some issues over there. What's the latest on that?
The best part is he really can't do what he says every year he's going to do. We do have it written in a locked contract. And if he even tried to do it, it would go to court and we feel we would win. But the problem is, every year, right around breeding season, he decides to declare he's going to take all the money. Well, he can't do it, but first thing we do, we own stallions. We lose clients because they're like, by the time this baby's born, we're not going to be racing for any money anymore. And we're like, they really can't do it. But, I guess anything can happen. But we do have it's funny, our state is like a T. Through the middle and the top, it's very agricultural, very rural, very horse-friendly. The problem is we have Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, which is very liberal, and, it sounds great when you say we're going to take away the money and give it to kids to go to school. But that's not what's going to happen with it. We're going to take away the money and spend it somewhere else, And we gave back $50 million of what we originally should get every year. And until we gave back the $50 million a year, and that includes all the racetracks, harness and thoroughbred, it was the best state by far. I mean, it was a great, now it's still a very good place to race. But, when we gave up, basically a monopoly on gambling to get the slots through, and then we were supposed to be rewarded for it. We've kept our end of the bargain. We've rebuilt an industry. He doesn't, see it the way we see it, but we have enough people that support us that I feel that we'll be fine.
Any questions for Ron Burke before we let Ron go and get back to business? He's got a pretty big day in front of him. How do you like your chances today in the jug?
I think we can win it. I honestly do. And I'm pretty honest with myself. I think we have a great shot in the first division. Yeah, Bayfield, we're going to have to pull magic out of the hat or something with him. He has the ability, but he's in a bad spot, 5 out of 6. And, the best horse probably outside of you. But I think he has a chance, but Luz Pearlman, as long as the track plays fair, I think he has a real good shot. He's in a good spot.
You gonna stick around for the winner's circle ceremony?
I will today. I will today. Yesterday, I'd had enough by then. They said no winner's circle, and I walked away. And then I hear Roger go to the winner's circle. I'm like, well, I'm already at the barn, so it is what it is.
Well, hopefully, Ron, we'll see you in the winner's circle this afternoon with one of your 2 entries. We want to thank you for taking the time, and I know it's busy for you over there and for your entire staff as you guys are getting ready to go. Folks, trainer Ron Burke, Hall of Famer and 12,000 race winner. Thank you, Ron.
Thank you.
That's our signature series, our Trackside Live signature series from the Ohio Harness Horsemen. We want to thank everybody for joining us out here today, and stay warm and stay dry. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
For 4 generations, Hagemeyer Farms has been carrying and breeding standard-bred racehorses. Hagemeyer Farms is home to a roster of champion stallions, including Western Terror, sire to $11 million earners, and Fool Me Once, a millionaire son of Art Major, standing his first season in 2021. Hagemeyer Farms is looking for its next champion. Stand your stallion at Hagemeyer Farms. For information about standing your stallion, call 513-304-9263.
How would you say the top 3 things that microchipping, the benefits that it has for the horse and the industry?
I think it's safe, reliable, less painful way to provide permanent, unchangeable identification for the horse.
Any racehorses not chipped by January 1st will not be eligible to race in the new year. We have 12 ID technicians ready to schedule your appointment today. Don't miss the gate. Visit the link below or contact your member services representative.
This has been Trackside Live. Trackside Live is presented by Hagemeyer Farms. Trackside Live is a presentation of the Ohio Harness Horsemen's Association.
Susan, first things first, put this into your bag to take over. So we need this to get on the air. That's the most important thing. Okay. Stop. I can stop the stream. I never stopped the stream yet. Yeah, I don't know if we're gonna put it there or we may leave it